Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review. And today is a momentous occasion for Fallout 4 modding because we finally have a proper SKS mod, something I've been waiting for so long, and we finally have it. And it's going to be the SKS, a rusted Chinese hunting carbine by Precision Tacos, and this mod is awesome. It comes complete with a beautiful custom model featuring custom textures as well as a nice set of custom animations for this thing, multiple animations at that depending on which modifications you add at the weapons workbench. This weapon is not added to the level list but rather has a pretty neat integration into the world that we'll get into a little bit later. And altogether, this thing has a ton of attachments that you can apply at the weapons workbench to make this weapon truly unique. At its core, it is still a nice Chinese SKS, but you can modify it to be some pretty crazy stuff. Now, I did specifically note this is a Chinese SKS in terms of lore, so it actually has a reason to make sense being in the world of Fallout, which I do appreciate. Now, speaking of nice little touches that we appreciate, let's talk about how this weapon is actually integrated into the game because I really like it. So, apparently there is some word going around the Commonwealth that a shipment has washed up on the shore of Nordhagen Beach, and if you head over there, you will find that there is indeed a shipping crate. That being said, word has spread far and wide, and you're not the only one who knows about this, so you may encounter some raiders who may have beaten you to the shipping crate, and they have already gotten their hands on the loot, and you will find them wielding the one and only SKS. Defeat them and go ahead and look around the area and you will find a ton of ruined SKSs that are pretty much worthless and garbage, but if you pick through them you will find the occasional fully functioning SKS that you can take over to a weapons workbench and repair, which is awesome. There's also a ton of 7.62 rounds all over the place that you can grab as well. Now right off the bat, I know some people are going to say this is a bit cheese as there's a bunch of weapons around and a bunch of ammo, but one, this is super lore friendly. It may not be the most balanced thing, but it is very lore friendly. It's a shipment of these weapons all in one place. It makes a whole lot of sense. Also, if you're not using an integrated wasteland that has 7.62 available, without traveling to Nuka World, this is the only place you're going to find 7.62 rounds. So you're going to need a lot of them if you're going to be able to use this weapon. That being said, there is a conversion that you can make over at the weapons workbench so that this thing doesn't fire 7.62. So honestly, I really like the way this weapon is integrated. Some people may not like it, but I really enjoy the fact that there's a new, unique area with some cool enemies that are using this weapon. I like it a lot. Please make more weapons, Precision Tacos. Your stuff is awesome. But now that we've got our hands on this SKS, let's take it in-game and see what exactly we get with this thing because there are a lot of neat features with this mod. Right here we have a very standard SKS as if you just picked it up from that shipping crate. As you can see, it has a damaged receiver, but that can be swapped out over at the weapons workbench. Standard though, this weapon is going to do a base damage of 51, which is pretty decent. It does shoot 7.62 rounds, has a fire rate of 45 in semi-automatic, has a range of 185, an accuracy of 61, a weight of 11.5 pounds, and a value of 129 caps, making for a pretty nice semi-automatic rifle. I like this thing a lot. I've always been a big fan of the SKS, and now we finally have a proper one with fully custom animations for Fallout 4, so I couldn't be more excited. Now, speaking of those custom animations, let's go ahead and see what we get with the SKS. First of all, let's talk about shooting and reloading. Gotta say, these animations look really nice, and the sound effects are good as well. So as you can see, by default, this thing does use a stripper clip, which is awesome and is true to form for the SKS. That being said, you can switch it out to actually take magazines, just like the actual SKS. Pretty good stuff. You also get a custom melee, as well as sprinting and grenade throwing. Now, heading over to a weapons workbench, you'll find that we can do a lot of terrible things to the SKS, including adding some heat shields and some simple reskins to some cool scopes, or some truly terrible things like drum magazines and Obres barrels, whatever the hell this thing is, and worst of all, a 10mm rechamber that I seem to have achieved with tape. Yeah, we can have a lot of fun with this gun. So, let's see what we can do with some of these attachments here. Starting with the receivers, you can first of all upgrade from your damaged receiver up to the standard receiver, which will give you a nice base damage of 60. Then you have a light frame, calibrated powerful, quick powerful, and hair trigger receiver, the best of which being the calibrated powerful at 96 damage. Now there's also the quote-unquote regrettable auto SKS receiver, which will require the Idiot Savant perk, and this will put this thing in full auto, and as you can see, gets the damage up to 454. Now, really quick, I do want to point out there is a small bug that I have found with the full auto receiver that I'll show right after this section, and you'll notice it on some of my other modded versions that it has a fire rate of 30,000, which I don't think is supposed to be there. So I'm not entirely sure how that happens, but when you apply the attachment, it may give you a supremely increased fire rate, and I'll show that off in-game. It does some pretty wacky stuff. Now then, back to our SKS. We do have some barrel options. We have the standard barrel, the Obrez barrel, and the, quote, very short barrel. We have some stocks. We have the standard stock, a strip stock, a cut stock, a very short stock, the marksman stock, which will recolor it to red, and a stealth stock, which will recolor it to black. For sights, we have the standard SKS sights, a heat shield, the short scope, the makeshift red dot sight, which looks pretty neat, and the long scope, which is mounted here at the rear. For muzzles, we have the option for no muzzle, the folded bayonet, the unfolded bayonet, the SKS compensator, the long compensator, and the suppressor, which has been made out of a nice little oil filter here. Now, also something to note with this mod is that the bayonet, much like the M1 Garand mod by AsXAs, is a separate melee weapon, so you can find this thing and use it as a nice little knife, though it's nothing to write home about. There's no modifications or anything. It's just a nice simple knife. Now then, we also have the option to add tape to the grip. We have black and blue tape. And then we do have the magazine section, where you have the standard 12-round static magazine, the 15-round detachable mag, the 30-round detachable mag, and the 75-round drum mag, as well as that 10mm rechamber, which is just something, isn't it? Now then, as promised, I do want to show off that full auto version and the weird little bug where it has the crazy fire rate. Here is a standard SKS firing, so you can see the normal fire rate. And here is the full auto version. Now, when I ADS, the bug doesn't seem to occur. As you can see, it does have a pretty fast fire rate, but nothing too crazy. But when I hip fire, well, as you can see, there's a bit of an issue there. So, I don't really know what's causing this, or if this is not a bug and it's completely intentional, but at the very least, it's a lot of fun. So, right now, if you download this mod, you may have that. So, pretty neat. Alright, now then, before we move on to the damage test of this weapon, I want to try something new with an accuracy and range test, kind of like we did in the last video, except now with a bit of a proper range, and it looks like we have a guy walking off his point there. Alrighty then, each post is going to represent 50 feet, so we get a nice gauge of how accurate this thing is at range, as well as how decent the iron sights are, as that's what I'll be using for this test rather than a scope, just to see if the iron sights are in fact usable at different distances. So for starters here we have 50 feet, which I expect is not going to be a problem at all, and sure enough, it isn't. Then we have 100 feet where it's getting a little iffy, but we land it no problem, and now if our last target will stand still in his corner like I told him to, let's see if we can land the headshot at 150 feet. Proving to be a bit difficult, but there, we did in fact land it. It's just that he is a legendary raider, so as you can see, the follow-up shots, though, are proving to be pretty difficult. The front post here is about the same size as his head, so lining up that shot was a bit difficult, but we finally did put him down. Now let's move on to the damage test to see what the killing potential of this weapon actually is. And now, of course, it is time for our damage test. We'll be running 3 tests today, one with the standard version of the SKS, no attachments and no perks, one with the fully upgraded receiver, and of course, I do want to try out the full auto receiver. I know it is currently bugged, but I just can't resist it. I want to see how fast it can put down a Deathclaw, even with the reduced damage. And let's go ahead and start off with this Deathclaw here. We will be using, again, standard SKS with no attachments and no perks. Let's see how well it does. Perfect. In exactly one clip, we get that Deathclaw down. Pretty nice. Now then, not this one just yet. We have a fully upgraded semi-automatic receiver doing about double damage. Still no perks though, I just want to show off what the weapon itself can do. Aiming for the Deathclaw's weak point. We put him down in only 5 shots, which is pretty nice. Now then, the full auto in hip fire, so we get to take full advantage of the 30,000 rate of fire bug. Let's see if I can even control the recoil on this thing. Apparently not. Let's just see how this thing actually functions. Huh. Interestingly enough, it doesn't seem to work at all. Taking a look at it, the range seems fine. It's not a range bug, it just doesn't seem to actually shoot the Deathclaw. You'll notice actually that the projectile seems to be firing out of the top of the screen. So if we aim down, it looks like there is a more than just a rate of fire bug. It seems that the projectile node also seems to be misplaced. Luckily, that is a very easy thing to fix, and I'm sure it will be fixed in an update very soon. So don't use this to fully judge the weapon just yet. That being said, this makes it a pretty challenging and fun weapon to use. There you go. Would you look at that? So yeah, guys, that is the SKS mod by Precision Tacos. A really wonderful mod. Taking that last bug aside, again, it is just a minor bug, and I guarantee you this is something that will be fixed in an update very soon. The weapon is honestly great. I love the custom animations, I love the implementation into the game, and it's an SKS, which just makes it really awesome and a nice weapon in my book. That being said, whether or not it goes into your load order is completely up to you. But if you do want to try it out for yourself, it will be linked down in the description below. So, as always, go ahead and check that mod out and show the author some love if you enjoy it. And thank you so much for watching this video. As usual, big shout out to all my patrons for making videos like this possible. If you want to support the channel and go check out the Patreon, we do have special things there like early access to my mods as well as special Discord roles, but all that stuff is completely optional. You guys support me enough here as it is on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!